Okay, this video is going to work on a homework problem PR9-3. I've pulled the information from Connect into Excel, and then I've actually added in, since this is going to be a little bit longer problem, I've added in a few templates that are going to assist us as well as we go through, just to sort of save on time and keep us organized as we go through the calculation. So this says that Dyson Limited manufacturers, I'm just reading up here, manufactures and sells home appliances such as air purifiers, fans, heaters, hand dryers, vacuum cleaners, and hair stylers. Use the following spreadsheets and facts to develop the pro forma income statement for the hair care division of Dyson Limited for the year 2025. So they give us some information, and then they give you a few um, schedules or budgets that we're going to use in order to prepare the pro forma income statement. So ultimately, where we're going is this. I've added in the accounts already to keep us organized of what we're looking, but it's accounts that you've already been familiar with ever since your first financial accounting course. We've got revenues minus cost of goods sold equals gross profit or gross margin. Then we subtract out our operating costs, and in this case, the particular operating costs are given to us right up here actually is our product development, our marketing costs, our distribution costs. And then when we subtract those out, we get operating income. So those are the accounts that we're going to use, but we're going to need to do some steps in order to get to the actual numbers. So the schedules that they actually give you, besides this information up here, so they give you all of this, and then they give you these two schedules here, and then they ask you to create this schedule here. And what I've done to keep us organized is I'm going to add in a few more schedules as we go through our calculations, going step by step and creating the budgeting process. You know that we had to create a budget step for direct materials, direct labor, manufacturing overhead, and then our ending inventory, ultimately to get our cost of goods sold schedule. So these are sort of the steps that we're going to do in order to get to our cost of goods sold, which is going to be our second input over here for our actual pro forma income statement. So we'll go ahead and walk step by step through that. So I've added in just a couple numbers just to kind of speed us along because we do have quite a few schedules to create. So the first one's going to be direct materials. So we're going to look at the units that are going to be produced or our sales over here of 1.52 million and 5. So I pulled that down over here. These are going to be our units that we're going to produce. We've got direct materials that we have here as a cost per unit given to us right here. So I'm going to link those over here real quick. And once I've got this here, I should be able to copy and paste this down. So now we got 45 and 50. That looks good. I'm going to go ahead and extend that out to calculate total direct materials cost because we're going to use this as an input into our calculation of cost of goods sold that we're doing. Okay, so I'm going to copy this over. Okay, now we've got this, sum this up. Right now, all I'm doing is extending the cost for the units that we're going to produce for our direct materials. So now we've got a cost for our direct materials here. I'm going to add in a little formatting here. So this is going to be our total that we're going to use in our cost of goods sold schedule. All right, now I'm going to do the same thing with direct labor. Again, they give us our direct labor cost per unit. So I'm just going to link these up. So we've got 4.1 for the first, the supersonic. These are all the individual sort of products that we have. Supersonic, the Corral, the Air Wrap. Anyway, these are the products that we produce. So I've got this linked here. So now I should be able to drag it down, 5.45 and then 5. That looks good. I'm going to extend the cost by multiplying them together. These are units produced times our direct labor cost per unit. Extend that, sum it. Now we got our total direct labor costs. Add in formatting to show it's a total. Now we're going to the next piece, which is going to be our manufacturing overhead. Okay, so for our manufacturing overhead, they tell us that the predetermined overhead rate here is $6 per direct labor hour. Since this is per labor hour, and then they give us minutes for each one of the products, we're going to have to convert this $6 rate into a minute rate and then multiply it out by the minutes in order to find the manufacturing overhead. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say $6 divided by 60, 60, and that'll give us a per minute rate, and then I'm going to multiply by how many minutes we have. So for the first product we have is 21, so I'm going to multiply this by 21 here, and I'm going to copy this. I know it's going to change, but I'm going to copy it to make my life a little bit easier. Then I'm going to go in here and change for each one of the minutes. So this is 20, then 23. So I'm going to go over here and change just the last variable here to 20, and then the last variable to 23, and now I've got each of those amounts. I'm going to extend it again by multiplying by the units produced by our cost per unit. Copy it, paste it, sum it. Now we've got our next input for the cost of goods sold schedule. Okay, last piece that I need, because remember, when we calculate cost of goods sold, that cost of goods sold equation, it's beginning purchase or beginning inventory right here, plus our goods manufactured, or we said in financial accounting, our goods purchased if we're looking at merchandisers who don't make their own goods. So we've got beginning inventory plus goods manufactured. That gives us total goods available for sale. And then we subtract out ending inventory, which is why we're doing this schedule right here. Next piece. So let's look at ending inventory. It says target ending inventory finished goods is 5% of expected sales. Okay, I've got the listed sales that we have here. Again, I'm just pulling that from right over here, right? Okay, so I've got the expected sales. I'm going to multiply this by 5%. So times 0.05. And then I'm going to drag this down. If we want to, we can sum it up too. But we're really looking for the dollar value here. Okay, the next piece I need to do is pull down the direct materials cost. Again, we've already pulled that from here. So I'm just going to copy this, paste it. I'm going to go over here, pull down the direct labor cost, copy it, paste it. I'm going to pull down the overhead cost, copy it, paste it. Okay, now we've got all of those because we already did the hard work of organizing it and calculating it where necessary for things like the manufacturing overhead. All right, now we want the total unit cost. So I'm going to sum this up for each one of these three components: direct materials, direct labor, manufacturing overhead. Add them all together. This gives us our total cost per unit. I'm going to copy this, paste it down. So now we got our cost per unit, and now we're going to extend the cost by multiplying out by the ending inventory, because that's the schedule we're creating here, is the ending inventory cost. So I'm going to take our cost per unit, which has all three components now. I'm going to multiply it by ending inventory. It gets this amount. I'm going to copy this, drag it down. And then I'm going to sum this up to give us our total amount of ending inventory here. Okay, we've now added that up. We're now going to create the cost of goods sold schedule. Okay, so I'm going to take beginning inventory. They actually give us our amount of beginning inventory that we have. We could create a beginning inventory schedule. That was part of what we do as our process in doing the budgeting process. But if we look at here in the data given, they tell us that the value of beginning inventory is this 39 million. So we're just going to pull that number directly from there because they already give us that number. So we're going to say 39 million. Here 007 500, make sure that was the right amount. 39007 500, that looks good. Okay, next piece we're going to do is direct materials used. So I'm just going to link this to the schedules we already calculated here, link it to here, link it to here. And these are just pulling the numbers that we've already calculated. Okay, total cost of goods manufactured is the summation of each one of those three components: direct materials, direct labor, manufacturing overhead. So we'll add all those up. Here's our total cost of goods manufactured. To get us our total goods available for sale, our CGAFS, we're going to sum up these two. So I'm going to take this and add it together. So that's going to give our cost of goods available for sale. Now we have to subtract out what we didn't sell, our ending inventory. So I'm going to link that to this here. And I'm going to put it in as a negative number so that I can just sum. And I'll sum these two. And that gives me finally my cost of goods sold. So that now I can go over to the income statement. Okay, to start the income statement, I don't actually start with cost of goods sold. I start with revenue. So the first thing I have to do is get my total sales. We're given expected sales here, and we're given selling price here. So our first starting point is going to be actually calculating our sales. So I'm going to take our unit sold times our cost, or our sales price, I should say, per unit, and add those up for each one. Oops. Each one of these products. Okay, looks good. This gives us a total amount of revenue that we then have. Now I'm going to link this. I'll put it in as a negative number so I can sum. Link this to cost of goods sold for our second piece, which we just calculated. Gross margin is going to be the sum of the two, or gross profit. Then we have operating costs. Operating costs are already provided for us under these non-manufacturing cost schedule that they give us. We got product development, marketing, and distribution. And notice, we know that's operating costs because they call it total operating costs here. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this as a negative number and just link it. I'm using negative numbers so that I can sum. If Connect doesn't want negative numbers, just change it to a positive number and then make sure you subtract it though. So we've got distribution here. As long as we're in a relevant range, we should be able to use these costs. No, total units sold here at 8.5 million. If we look, our projected sales are a summation. You got it right down here in the bottom right when you highlight all these, 8.5 million. So we're within that relevant range, which means we can use these. So I'm going to go ahead and sum this and add all of that up to the gross margin here. And that gives me our total amount that we should have for our operating income, and that does match with what I was hoping to calculate. So we are now finally done. This was our ultimate sort of schedule that we were trying to create. We now finally created it, but remember, there are many steps to the budgeting process. And so here's all the different steps we use, as well as the schedules already given to us in order to get to that point. Okay, we're done with this homework problem. I'm going to stop sharing and stop recording.